You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast hosted by experienced consultants James Gurd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-com strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode. Today's episode is sponsored by Scale Commerce Engine and Swap Commerce. More about them later. So let's set up the scene. Today we are doing one of our monthly roundups. They seem to be proving popular, giving our digest of what we're seeing in the e-com world. That's not just technology, but like general market mood trends. So let's get cracking, Paul. We always start with the market mood. So we're going to focus in on roughly the last month in April. The big thing that I'm picking up in terms of some stats is that retail sales were flat in March. This is according to ONS data. But interestingly, the percentage of retail sales that's online has actually gone down slightly year on year for quarter one, from 26.4% last year to 25.9%. So not a massive drop, but it shows that actually stores are rebounding pretty nicely. Stores are as important as ever in the retail mix. But interestingly, and this stat came from Dan Conboy, so thanks, Dan. He posts an interesting LinkedIn newsletter each week with some digest of the market. But UK consumer confidence edged up in April. People are kind of feeling a little bit more positive financially, and that's reflected in GfK's consumer confidence index. So there are some green shoots of people feeling a little less, I'm going to say less negative rather than more positive, because there's still a lot of financial pressure in the UK and other countries. What have you been sensing from a market mood point of view, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as I was saying to you before, I'm slightly unprepared for this one, even more so than usual. But I took some data from something that's sent around in our company, which is based on our benchmarking data, which is just purely kind of internal clients. But overall, so Q1 was really positive, and then March was a really good month. April wasn't quite as strong, so it's down month on month, but it's still kind of, I think it was around 15% up year on year for our average client, which is pretty strong. UK is performing particularly well. US is very challenging. And then from a performance marketing perspective, April wasn't as strong as the average for Q1 as well. Just CPC is increasing, CPA is increasing. But yeah, overall, I think our average client is probably fairly positive still, but Q1 was maybe slightly better than people expected.
Yeah, I think I know we've got quite a different client base at the moment. My clients are generally they are definitely feeling trading pressure. There's a lot of promotional activity going on still. There's a lot of intent discounting. And therefore that's margin pressure, and it's this constant cycle of trying to acquire people, but acquire them on good deals and try and find a way of monetizing that through retention strategies. It is challenging. What I found interesting,
Sorry, James. One thing I was going to add actually. So the biggest topic that I've seen come up in meetings actually is the wholesale piece, and for like you say, a lot of our clients are premium fashion. Top 50% are almost luxury, bottom 50% are more kind of I guess a bit more everyday. And those guys fall into the category where you've got people like ASOS, Shoe, some of those particularly aggressive resellers that have got, a lot of stock, and they're discounting ridiculously, just to try and kind of, get rid of the stock and acquire customers. So that is by far the biggest topic that I've seen come up actually, and it's way worse than usual. Particularly ASOS have been crazy the last 6 months, and then I would say that affects the higher price point as well. People like My Teresa, even Net-a-Porter, Essence, still really aggressive. But I would say they're under £200 AOV in fashion. A lot of those resellers are crazy with discounts at the moment, which I've not seen at this level before.
Hi, I'm Thomas, Director Growth at Scale. Our light shines brightest when we help businesses navigate complexity. 5 billion in e-com turnover, 6 million SKUs, or over 4,500 physical stores by just one of our customers. Scale can handle it. Want to bring back the fun in e-commerce? Visit scale.com and talk to us today.
Yeah, the wholesale bit's really interesting because a lot of the D2C brands that I work with or I look at and monitor are really have been pushing on marketplaces for quite a while. But they realise that with marketplace becomes different challenges because you're not owning data, you don't own the customer relationship, you can't control pricing, etc. It's not to say it's not the right strategy, but you need to really be on top of it. And the wholesale bit is where I'm seeing more and more of the brands I work with who want to either extend and grow their wholesale channel, or that, they want to launch and they want to open up to more direct relationships with other businesses. Really, really interesting. If anyone is out there who's looking at exploring a wholesale channel but hasn't done it before, give us a shout. We'd love to have a conversation because we both worked with many brands, help them expand into wholesale. So it's a challenging area, but it's very, very cool. I'm actually at IRX talking to the founder of Bear Kind in a couple of weeks on this whole thing of pivoting from D2C into a hybrid wholesale model and expanding on marketplaces like Fair. So that's going to be really, really interesting. So we'll have to get her on the podcast too. The other thing that I found really interesting in terms of where money is going and what people are focused on, and it's inevitable because it's linked to AI, is the big tech companies like Microsoft, Meta, Google spent a combined $32 billion on data centers and other capital expenditures in the first 3 months of the year. That's bonkers. And this it reflects, number one, the increase in investment in AI tools and the demand for these tools and cloud-based services. But then it also reflects the slightly worrying side of our industry, which is those data centers. What is how many of those are carbon neutral? How many of those are actually adding to environmental pressures? I know Google spent a lot of time on trying to create more sustainable data centers, but it's going to be an interesting thing to monitor how effective the industry is in managing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's super interesting that Liam tells me every day about my mistake not putting money into NVIDIA 4 months ago, whenever he did it 5 months ago, when they started spiking as a result of all the AI stuff. Obviously lots of external impacts.
Swap is the e-commerce operating system powering brands looking to scale, from shipping, tracking and package protection to returns and cross-border. Swap improves every pain point in your operations journey. Trade in your tech stack for the one system that can manage it all. This is e-commerce evolved. So let's pull out a few performances. You said about, you mentioned ASOS before. ASOS have had a few challenges around profitability. Their adjusted first half revenue fell, not surprising because there's so many D2C brands now have eaten into that fashion space that once that they dominated. The other some other big names performances. So Dunelm grew 3% growth despite tough market in homewares. Their digital sales are now up to 37% of the mix, which is up 1 percentage point. So they're still doing well. Actually, they did very smart in some of their marketing targeting. And the big thing from having read their statements is that product availability has been key. So they've been able to buffer themselves from some of the disruptions to global supply chains because of the resilience in their supply chain. And I've read a lot more in the last 6 months about the logistics leads and businesses talking about building in supply chain resilience. And interestingly, there's a consultant that I connected with on LinkedIn who that's her speciality, is helping people understand that so that you can, although you can't avoid problems, you can minimize the disruption by not being dependent on one specific route to get products to market. What else? Anything else that you've seen in terms of specific businesses and strong or weak performance?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, I saw some numbers around Next still doing really well recently. Can't remember them, but, they continue to have a really, interesting strategy that's doing really well for them. I think ASOS is interesting. They've obviously, there's been no positive news around them for quite a long time. And I think the level of discounting lately is unnatural. And I keep expecting it to slow down or stop, but it hasn't. yeah, but I think I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But yeah, like you say, I think it's an interesting market at the moment. And I think, like I said, like you said before as well, like my view is very fashion focused, where when I do speak to other people outside of fashion, I think it is challenging for sure.
Yeah, the homewares market's been very challenging for a number of years now. What's interesting is a couple of big brands are expanding into physical retail, so which reflects that trend that retail stores are bouncing back, and e-commerce is having the struggle because of its massive boom over the pandemic. But so Wayfair's opened its first brick and mortar store in the US. Sephora's expanding its UK presence. I think I've read they're planning to open 2 stores in Newcastle. So Newcastle's going to be getting a Sephora boom. So yeah, that's there's some bold moves, I guess, from brands like that to develop a more omni-channel presence.
I think those well, in particular Sephora, they've done retail really well globally for a long time, and I think that'll probably be that, like, if not the same strategy that I'm about to talk about. But I think when I talk to different brand CMOs, I think people look at retail differently as well. Like a lot of brands now looking at it as pure marketing. So some of the brands that, like Aloe, have come into the UK, Vuori, like loads of others, and I think they look at it solely as like, well, not solely, but primarily, now that costs have come down around kind of physical retail space, they see it as like brand awareness, just routes to customer, routes to community. So I think that's definitely part of like the uplift in kind of, retail stores as well. But I think it's slightly different for people like Sephora. But yeah, I definitely think like the average kind of brand marketing strategy now includes like physical space.
Yeah, definitely. The other area that I think is interesting is pre-owned is still booming. Seeing that brands that are in the US, the Real they have an amazing sales growth. Pre-owned for like luxury fashion, open for vintage, just like co-founded by Colin Saunders, who I used to work with years ago when I was contracting at House of Fraser. They're expanding really well, and they're getting good growth globally. So the high-end pre-owned fashion space is particularly buoyant, but not just at the high end. Like Vinted was in the news recently. They had revenue growth of 61% last year, delivered a net profit versus a net loss the prior year. So there's such a demand, and I guess this is partly down to the sustainability angle. People want to be seen to be a bit more ethical in their purchasing. But it's also down to the fact that people want to own nice items, but a lot of people can afford it because some of the price points on high-end premium fashion are crazy if you're a just everyday Joe like me. And I'm not surprised that this is a massive area. And I guess it helps businesses tick that we're doing something to help the environment, because fashion is notoriously bad for it. What's your take on it? What are you seeing? Are you got any clients who are doing like selling pre-owned stuff, or giving their customers ability to like recycle and resell?
Yeah, so we've got loads of clients that have like done resale, but none, I don't think, where it's been like a serious volume. I think most of the time that's like, it's more of like an engagement play, and all of the kind of resale is happening on Vinted and Depop and all of the other channels. Which I think is a pretty big trend. The thing that I find really interesting, so a few of our clients now are targeting a younger consumer. And a few months ago, I got into like a rabbit hole on ChatGPT looking at trends around younger consumers. And then I started talking to more of our like younger employees around the stuff. But I think there's the big thing that I maybe didn't realize that's as big as it is a lot of like 18-year-olds don't want to buy new clothes anymore. Like they don't see like why they would buy new clothes, and actually they would just buy like most of their stuff from Vinted and Depop. And then they're, like you said, they're getting a higher quality item, there's less impact on the environment. And they kind of get a lot more for their money. But yeah, and even a lot of the people that work for us, like, they're buying all of their clothes from Vinted and Depop. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting trend. And I did have loads of data on it off the back of the ChatGPT session that I did. But I can't remember any of it. But yeah, it's super interesting. And I think Vinted is a fantastic business, because the other side of this that I've seen is my fiance has like an addiction ever since we had a baby. I don't know why, to buying and selling things on Depop and Vinted. And she started off on Depop, where you lose 10%. And there's like loads of cons basically to using Depop that you don't see until you start using Vinted. And then they take 0% commission. And there's like so many more like selling tools and things. I'll have to remember all of the kind of pros for Vinted. But yeah, super interesting business, interesting as to how they monetized it, like super international. I listened to a podcast on how I built this with their founder, and like how they've grown is like fascinating. But yeah, it's a really cool business.
Yeah, it's interesting you said about they're talking to you the younger side of your business, your like employees, which makes me feel even older, because I'm over 2 decades old. Yeah. That makes me the granddad of e-commerce then. But I've read quite a few interviews with people talking about how a lot of, and it's not all, because you still got a strong percentage of people who will happily buy from Shein, whatever you call it, and Primark, and buy cheap and buy crap, and fast fashion, all the problems. But there is an increasing percentage of that younger audience who want fewer items, better quality, longer lasting, and something that's a bit more unique and something that's a bit more personal and isn't just mass market. And this brings back to I think there's a massive opportunity for D2C brands where they're, instead of like massively discounting items that aren't selling fast, changing the position of stuff of things like be one of the few who owns. People don't do this enough in terms of how they position products, because if everyone buys the same product, then you don't have anything unique in your wardrobe. If hardly anyone's buying an item, that for me is a potential plus sign for people. I know there's other arguments that maybe it's just not a good quality item. I think there's an opportunity to tap into that need to own something that's a little bit more unique and not mass market. Let's move on to tech news and investments. I'm going to start with one that I found very interesting, because I read a lot and I'm obviously quite dull and I don't go out enough. But China's e-commerce professionals now number more than 70 million, which is ahead of the 2025 target that this is a great name for a ministry, China International Electronic Commerce Center of the Ministry of Commerce, which sounds like a Monty Python thing. 70 million plus e-com professionals in China. What do you make of that, given China's status as an e-com powerhouse?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But I guess there are some massive organizations over there as well, aren't there? And I guess that presumably is quite broad in terms of like the roles. But yeah, there's and also the other thing with China is they're only or like a majority of, like, they'll be servicing, like, it's not like you've got Amazon over there or Google and Meta and everything else. It's like there's so much tech to service their own like digital economy. So yeah, that is crazy, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me loads. Yeah, but very, very interesting country and landscape over there.
100% right. I mean, even the likes of Alibaba's, WeChat, all of those will suck up millions and millions of people. But for me, it's just, as a standalone stat, you go, wow, suddenly, given the fact our population in the UK is less than that, it shows you the scale and potential of the country. Another one that I thought was quite interesting, Klarna and Uber are partnering on a global deal where Klarna will be a pay now option for Uber and Uber Eats for US, Germany, and Sweden. So not buy now, pay later, but the pay now. That for Klarna is massive, and I can see what, I guess, from Uber's point of view, being able to tap into the Klarna network of customers who are set up on Klarna and use it wherever possible, and trying to get more of those people, especially on the Uber Eats side as well, trying to get people over from other from the likes of a Deliveroo, etc.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
Yeah, really interested. I think it doesn't surprise me on the Sweden side as much, because Klarna's obviously massive over there. But yeah, the US is a big win for them. It's obviously been quite competitive amongst those payment methods. and Klarna do seem to be doing really well over there. But yeah, really interesting. I think Uber Eats in the US, because over there they've got like DoorDash and what's the other one? I know something else. I can't remember the name. Postmates and stuff like that. So yeah, super competitive. So yeah, really interested.
And here's one where I have mixed emotions on, because I for a long time thought that cryptocurrency and e-commerce is never going to go anywhere as a payment method. I still haven't seen a really tangible use case where someone can show it like customers really demand it. But Stripe is going to again let customers accept cryptocurrency payments. They dabbled with it a few years back and then stopped. So they're doing it on Solana, Ethereum, and Polygon. I'm intrigued to that. I definitely don't know enough about the blockchain crypto world because it's not close enough to the type of business I work with. But I'm intrigued to know whether any e-commerce businesses are going to actually explore that, or whether that's going to be just suited to different industries.
I think it's probably like a niche play, maybe like some of the gaming sites, some of the kind of niche retail sites. Maybe there'll be a place for that, or even like, you know, some of the like trading sites where Stripe processing payments. But I don't think it's like a mainstream play. I think similar to you, like when a lot of the e-com platforms and like e-com payment providers started accepting Bitcoin and stuff like that, I thought it was always just like a bit of a marketing play. But like you said, I don't think this would be particularly mainstream. It's more of like allowing for niches.
Yes, yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, gaming definitely. The other one that interesting, and Swap, who are one of our sponsors, they'll also be at the Pulse event on the panel that we're running. We'll talk a bit more later. But they've landed a $9 million investment for Swap Global, which is, I guess, broadly speaking, their version of Global E, the cross-border commerce solution, helping people expand into like new markets, offering like DDP, delivery duty paid, automatic tax calculation, remittance, express customs clearance, etc. That's really interesting to see that I know the Swap are known around like return space as well, but the cross-border commerce is the area they're really now pushing and investing in.
Yeah, really interesting. I think they've got some pretty big plans, to be fair, to like make a bigger move around all back office or a number of back office areas. And they seem to be growing really quickly. They're winning lots of our clients at the moment from a returns perspective, but I think we've got 2 that are testing their global solution at the moment. But yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see where they end up going, actually, just because when I have spoken to them about like their broader plan, it feels like they're going to go a lot more into some of the operational areas.
Yeah, I'm due a conversation to find out a bit more about how it integrates and how it works in comparison with some of the other solutions I'm used to. But it's always good to have competition there because cross-border commerce is challenging. It is definitely challenging.
Yeah.
That's not on a platform level. This I thought was quite interesting. So Shopware, who I know they don't have like a deep penetration in the UK market, it's much stronger in Europe. They do have a decent set of UK clients. They've added open banking direct for account payments for European merchants using Bright. So that's a really smart play, I think. Open banking and increasing, especially in Europe, like banking payments is huge. So good move on their part.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's Shopware is an interesting one. I feel like I've not seen as much of them recently. But yeah, it might be quite interesting to see how they're getting on, actually. Generally.
Anything else that you've seen in the last month or so? Anything big around tech news or investments?
Well, the big one, I don't think there's much to say, but it's like a big rumor, I guess, over the last week or so is Ecommerce. The rumors of them potentially being up for sale. So that'd be an interesting one to see how that unfolds. And I don't think that's massively surprising, but I think that would be very interesting because I feel like the e-com platform market needs a bit of a shake-up, and dependent on who bought them, I think that could change things a little bit.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I didn't put it in here just because the news that's landed is very, very generic, which is there are rumours that they are talking, but there's nothing about it. And I get Well, let's just do a devil's advocate. Who do you think would be interested in buying that? Would a big competitor buy them up to take their brands? And it was all like the weirdest move that I can't see happening, but who knows, would be Shopify buying it to accelerate their B2B capability. Couldn't see that.
That'd be really interesting. I can't see Shopify buying them. I think it's exciting, because I think if someone buys BigCommerce and puts some money behind it, because BigCommerce have potential. My view on BigCommerce is they have potential. They've got good people. The product's pretty good, but they just can't move at the rate that Shopify can. And I think they've got the toughest competitor that's ever been in the platform space in Shopify. So I think it'd be really interesting if someone big bought them. I think the people that feasibly could buy an e-com platform, but I don't think BigCommerce will necessarily fit the bill, would be like Meta, Microsoft, Google. But I can't see it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be private equity.
I obviously I can't see any of those big tech. It's just too much of a distraction to them run an IT services business. But invest. But the problem is, if it is private equity, an investment vehicle, then that's normally a 3 to 5 max year plan to sweat the asset and sell it, which.
Yeah,
as you say, I really love BigCommerce. I think with the people and the quality of the technical leadership and guidance they provide clients, and the strength of the customer relationship management they provide, is a real value add. And I just hope that whoever buys them doesn't kill that off just to try and monetize a product, because I think that would be a big risk. So yeah, let's watch that space. And obviously, all the people we know at BigCommerce won't be able to say a thing, because anyone who is aware of it in the leadership level will be under such strict gagging orders. So we won't put anybody in an uncomfortable position. So watch this space. Let's do a latest in AI, because I find this fascinating. And if anyone out there hasn't subscribed to, I recommend the Neuron. It's really interesting. You get all these weird nuggets coming in. Some of it is kind of noise, a screen app. Other stuff lands that's quite interesting. And there are two things this week in the last month, that I'd found most interesting. Number one is that the concerns about the human impact of AI are not going away. In fact, they're actually increasing. One example, like Warren Buffett, the renowned US investor, said, his quote is, "AI has potential for both enormous good and harm," which I think is completely apt. The latest obsession is around translation, and studies and surveys of translators talking about reporting losing work to AI, where people have gone to AI rather than using a specialist translator. So there are elements that impact the e-com market, where obviously people could be either positively or adversely affected by this. But there was a poll of 100 plus founders, like e-com business founders, on how AI is being used in their business. And this is what I found very interesting. It's the top 5 productivity gains, things like Grammarly to correct grammar, or meeting transcriptions using things like Fireflies. Second, creative and content. That's moved up massively in the last quarter. So not just image generation. I mean, that's a big area, definitely. But generation of video scripts. I mean, the tool we use to record this, Riverside, will do that for you. And then design. So people using AI capabilities and tools like Canva. I know we talked a little bit about the creative and content side recently, but are you seeing your client base use this more and more in the creative ideation process?
We're using it quite a lot, and we're starting to build it more into our little tools. So we've got a tool called Visualize, which basically builds templates for catalog ads. So it'll just you can basically build a template, pull multiple images in, and then pull in different attributes of it from a data feed or from an e-com platform. And then that becomes a template that you would see in like DPAs and stuff. And we're starting to do more with like AI backgrounds in those. And we use a few different third parties now that basically, build other pieces of creative dynamically. So they'll like take a background out of, a product image and then overlay it on another image. And there's some really nice examples. There's Pangaya one. I think if you Google like Pangaya AI product image or something, you'll probably find it, where it's just like a really nice background of like oranges, and then there's an orange t-shirt on top of it. It looks great. And that's quite good for lifestyle content as well. The other one that I was going to say that I think one day will replace us, I don't know if you've seen any of the voice AI tools or like text to audio. But yeah, there's quite a lot of those now. And I was looking at one the other day that looks really solid. So eventually, hopefully, this will be all AI based, and then I won't be as unprepared. That's the hope.
It would lose its charm if the AI was just deeply organised and then we didn't have a 5-minute panic going, is this episode strong enough? Do we need to talk about something else? I'd say the image generation a bit I've been using as well, and I've been quite impressed by. I was exploring the use of generating it for landing pages on my website without having to like pay for photography on a Shutterstock, something like that, or do my own photography. And the ability, the prompting is pretty accurate actually. You can do, like I was doing it for like a training page and create an image of a trainer in a particular style. The trainer is male, 40 years old, has a beard, wears glasses, is stood in front of a group of 6 people who are sat at tables with their laptops. They're a mixture of men and women. And you can put in loads of different stuff. And there's a presentation on the board showing some charts behind him. And you spin that out and you do like animation style. And you suddenly get like 4 pictures that are pretty good. It's not perfect. For high-end brands who want pixel perfect brand execution, it's not going to achieve that. But do you know what? For a lot of people, even in an ideation phase, to create concepts that can provoke a creative process, I think is really impressive. The other 3 areas were workflow automation. That's been done for quite a while for like Zapier and others. Coding, that's increased in the last couple of years. So like GitHub Copilot is a great one. The ability to write code, and having spoken to a few developers whose opinion I really trust on, is the code any good? Surprisingly, it gets thumbs up in terms of the underlying quality of the code that can then be taken by a developer and refined, and obviously sense checked as well. And then the final one, customer support. I'm not surprised by this. We just recently did a podcast with the Lisa, the founder at Sienna, which is being used by quite a few e-commerce brands now to do really good personal chat-based customer service. So those are the 5. Anything else you're seeing in your client base around how AI is being used?
I mean, I use it personally for like research a lot. So one of the things that was a game changer for me was when you could start uploading documents. So if I've got like a really long document, firstly I'll just upload it and then I'll ask it to summarize. And then I'll start prompting off the back of it and then like looking into trends. So that's like what I was doing with that piece around resale. And then I just ended up, spending half an hour. The amount of information you can consume, like when you're getting the detailed responses back and then like kind of asking further questions, I think is amazing. So it's been really useful for me on that. And beyond that, one thing that I thought was really cool actually, so I don't know if you saw Triple Whale released something called Moby, and this was quite annoying because Liam and I wanted to build this for our benchmarking data set. So we've got all of our client data set in BigQuery, and then we basically wanted to build an interface where we could ask questions around the trends. And actually it's not annoying because theirs version is like way better, and our version would be like super scrappy, and you could definitely have millions of things in this space. But essentially they've built something called Moby, and I think the name is brilliant as well, where you can basically just ask questions and draw insights. And I think that will be one of the best areas for AI to have like a massive impact for businesses on the insight side. But I mean, our clients are fairly conservative, I would say. Like people use ChatGPT. The translation one, a lot of our clients, it's quite interesting. One of our clients was going to spend like 200k with Smartling, and then they ended up using OpenAI instead for free, which was quite interesting. And actually they were really happy with it. And they used the same process. So they had, they vetted all the content, did some like manual overrides for like technical stuff. But yeah, I was quite impressed with that. yeah, and beyond that, just the obvious stuff, really.
Yeah. Excellent. Right, let's close on an interesting e-com story that I read. I love the impact of like psychological neuroscientific insights on human behavior and how that can be translated into making improvements to the online store and driving better customer experience. And this was a cool one that came up. So in an online grocery store, customers bought more items when they felt vibrations on their device while adding items to their cart, or animations on desktop. So the vibration, using the vibration capability in modern devices, add to the cart, they feel that little vibration. On desktop, like the item moves side to side, or the add to basket button, looks like it's vibrating. And this is linked to the fact that when we, in the real world, when we physically touch something, we feel it, it creates a connection and a perceived ownership. And that can lead to a stronger association with it and an increased likelihood to want to then commit to taking it, using it, keeping it, etc. So touch is key to ownership. But apparently, this has an adverse impact when it's out the payment stage. This is on adding to cart. But weirdly, the research, when they looked at it, when it was done on payment, when you go to pay and you get vibrational movement, that creates a negative reaction. So I love this. I thought this is really interesting because I can't ever remember being on any e-commerce site and adding to basket and having anything like that. And the standard add to basket is just, we've added to your basket, here's a slide out panel, or we're taking you into the checkout now. So I thought that was interesting. What do you reckon to that?
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I have actually seen it before, and I've always thought it's quite nice. Just a little tiny vibration on adding basket, and other minor mini CTAs. Yeah, I really like it. I think anything like that just makes for more of an engaging experience. So yeah, I think that's really cool. And then I just added a random one because I wasn't sure whether you wanted me to add something here. But Alo Yoga just released a Vision Pro app called Sanctuary, which is pretty cool, where it's like a kind of studio type environment, and then there's like different things users can do, and they can kind of shop the catalog at the same time. I was quite impressed with that. And I think there's minimal trade value to, and maybe even minimal value how you usually want to get value out of Vision Pro at the moment, but it's a really cool way of understanding it, and obviously lots of PR value from being an early adopter. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice. I'll quite have to look at that. That's why I love doing these sessions, because we each discover different things, and that's the aim of sharing it back to everyone who's listening. So I hope you found that useful. Do let us know via the comments where when we post on LinkedIn what are you noticing? What was your interest in e-com story from April, and why? And also, if you're an e-commerce retailer, don't forget to bag your free ticket to the Vivant Pulse event on the 30th of May. There's a handful of tickets left. It's an amazing event. Connect with loads and loads of your peers, hear interesting e-com leaders sharing their advice and insights and strategic perspectives. And we'll also be hosting an Inside Commerce panel, so do come and say hello. And also, before you leave, for those who haven't already, don't forget to follow Inside Commerce on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter. Take care, everyone. You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast, hosted by experienced consultants James Gurd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-com strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode.